Hello, this is Julie Hogue with the Vegetarians and Meat Lovers Split Table Recipes podcast. On my podcast, we talk about cooking. We talk about a lot of recipes for split table recipes, split table families, where there are more than one type of diet in the household, like vegetarians and meat lovers. Today, I have an amazing, awesome chef who has made the cookbook Easy Plant-Based Cooking for Two. Delicious vegan recipes to enjoy together. And it's a beautiful book. It has 80 simple and wholesome dishes. The pictures are gorgeous. It is such a useful book and it can be used in so many ways. And you can find her on Instagram under her name, Lei. Let me spell it for you. Leishishak. And I will put all of her links down in the podcast notes so that you can easily access her on Instagram, her books on Amazon, and her website as well. So I'm really excited to introduce her, and she has a lot of amazing things to say. She has an amazing career in cooking different things. She's an amazing chef. She has so many good things to say. We had such a great chat. I had so much fun chatting with her, and I am ready to share it. Are you ready? All right, let's go. Let's do it. Woohoo! Okay, everyone, I'm so excited. I'm so pumped to talk to this person. I have been waiting to talk to her, and she has this amazing book. Well, she has several amazing cookbooks out there, but the one she has out right now is Easy Plant-Based Cooking for Two, Delicious Vegan Recipes to Enjoy Together. And her name is Lei Shishak. Welcome, Lei.
Thank you. Hi, Julie.
It's so nice to meet you. I'm really excited to talk with you.
I'm very excited to be here as well.
So I guess my first question for you is, are you a vegan?
I do not consider myself a vegan. I do eat meat and animal products occasionally. I would probably fall into the category of a flexitarian.
Okay. Yeah, which means you eat fish, right? Is that what flexitarian
I do
is?
eat fish. So pescatarian, yeah, let's go over this.
Yeah.
I know it can get confusing. So yeah, there's different levels of plant-based eating, and one can be a vegetarian, which is someone who consumes vegetables, but also does and may consume animal products like eggs or dairy. And then you've got pescatarian, and that's a vegetarian who eats seafood. Then you've got a flexitarian, and that's someone who consumes mostly plant foods, but occasionally does eat small amounts of animal products. And so that's the category that I would fall in. And then, as you mentioned, there are vegans and raw vegans, and then there's also whole food plant-based eaters.
And then I guess we should cover too, what exactly is plant-based eating? If someone doesn't really know what that means, what does it mean?
Yeah, so it's a pretty general term for a lifestyle where you're focused on eating foods that come directly from nature. So we're talking about grains, beans, nuts, fruits, vegetables, and legumes, and seeds too, actually. So really matters though is that you're eating these and the majority of your diet comes from these sources. So that's what plant-based eating is.
I gotcha. And so like I'm a vegetarian, but I still consume dairy products. I don't do any meat. I don't do any fish, but I will do like eggs and cheese and milk. So then I'm just called a vegetarian, correct?
You're a vegetarian.
And that's how I always thought it was too. So I'm right.
Yeah.
I've been living this way for a long time. How long have you been eating this particular diet? Has it been a lifelong thing or is it kind of new?
So it's pretty new to me. I have always been a meat eater. I grew up in a meat eating household. I mean, we had meat breakfast, lunch, dinner. We snacked on meat. It was just, my parents would smoke and dry meat in our fireplace. We raised chickens.
Wow.
Yeah. I was surrounded by meat. So but as I got older and wanted to start taking care of my body, and obviously being in the restaurant world and being a chef, you're surrounded by, lots of amazing produce. And so, my diet maybe wasn't, as heavy on the animal products, but I still ate meat. But the real turning point for me was the start of the pandemic. Actually, I had just sold my bakery, which I had run for 10 years, and sold it in March of 2022, right at the start of the pandemic. And I was at home like everyone else, wondering what to do with my time.
Right.
And I just decided it was time for me to really start eating healthier and taking care of my body. And, we're all getting older and, joints start to hurt and you start feeling your back more and your knees start hurting. And I just wanted to treat my body better than I had been. Many chefs, we get off work late, we're starving, we get off at midnight, and like the only thing open is like fast food or bars, and all they have are like fried foods, and they're typically fried meat products, right? So that's what I've been putting into my body for many, many years. And I started searching online. I started hearing about plant-based this and plant-based that. And I was like, what is this plant-based thing? So I just did some research, and I liked how it seemed a little bit more flexible and it seemed more approachable for me, as opposed to just becoming just all of a sudden, I'm going to go vegan. Like I knew I couldn't do that. And that, that wasn't going to happen in my household, because I live in a household of two with my husband, and he's a meat eater. And there's just no way that I could be like, we're going vegan. Surprise. So plant-based eating seemed to be perfect for me, and I wanted to learn more. So I enrolled for my plant-based nutrition certificate with the T. Colin Campbell School of Nutrition. And it's an online course. I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in learning more about plant-based eating. It's an online, fully remote course, and you learn a ton. And, I wasn't so sure because I'd never taken online programs. And I have to tell you, I learned so much, and it was taught by really knowledgeable instructors. So anyhow, long story short, that's how I fell into plant-based eating. And then I started talking to my agent and my editor and about ideas for my next cookbook. And I told them about how I was, starting to follow a plant-based diet. And I really thought there was a trend towards plant-based eating. And that's what this book came to be from all of those discussions.
Right. I think you're right. I think there is a trend towards that. And a lot of it is the health benefits. What are some other health benefits that eating a plant-based diet could give a person?
So plants are full of nutrients and minerals, and they're anti-inflammatory. They're also very low in saturated fats, so they're going to keep your cholesterol levels down. They have a lot of phytonutrients in them. They're going to help with your fiber intake. They're very high in fiber. They're also going to help you regulate your blood sugar because they're low in saturated fats. They're going to help you lower your weight because they're rich in low glycemic foods. So you're not going to get that spike in your blood sugar levels. They also will help you keep feeling full longer. So there's just a ton of benefits from eating plants that our bodies thrive on.
I think it's a really interesting point that you just said, high in protein. Like I've been a vegetarian since I was in 8th grade, but constantly all my life, I have been barraged with questions. Well, do you get enough protein? What do you eat? And so for me, being in the Midwest, growing up when I did, it was very unusual for someone to be a vegetarian. In Minnesota, it was odd. Like I was delusional. I should have been born in California. I'm telling you.
Yes.
But people would say that to me all the time. Like, are you getting enough food? Are you getting enough protein? I'm like, well, yeah. I think it's so odd that people have that opinion where if you're not eating meat, you're not getting enough protein.
That's so true. Yeah. And like if someone wants to just I remember they taught us this in the certificate class I was taking, like one serving of tofu is just like 3.5 ounces. And if you actually weigh out 3.5 ounces of tofu and you see how much that is, it's not much actually, if you're actually looking at that amount of tofu. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's all I need. And they're like, that's all you need,
Right.
Yeah, it's totally doable to get enough protein on a plant-based diet.
So are there any drawbacks to being on a plant-based diet?
So there are a few, and I do talk about them in the intro to my book, one thing you want to keep in mind is that plant-based proteins are incomplete proteins. So they don't contain all 9 essential amino acids that our bodies need. So what you want to do is focus eating on complete proteins. So we're talking about the soy, the tofu, the quinoa, and you want to mix it with high protein plant foods. So like chickpeas and kidney beans and flax seeds and pumpkin seeds and things like that. So you want a good mix of anything. I always keep in my mind quinoa and soy. Like when I'm eating during the week, I'm like, okay, got to make sure I'm eating quinoa and soy at least for, a good number of the meals that I have during the week. And if you focus on that, then you'll be okay. The other thing is if you're strictly vegan, so you're not eating any animal products at all, you might run into the problem of lacking vitamin B12. So what you might want to do is just take a supplement, or occasionally if you can have some nutritional yeast or fortified foods, then you'll be okay.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I kind of forgot that nutritional yeast was one way you could get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your top, you just mentioned a few of your top favorites. Are there any other favorite top plant-based foods that you really like to cook with, that you like your go-to, or just something you really enjoy?
I think I mentioned chickpeas, which I do enjoy a lot. I feel like they're so easy to add to like salads. You just want to toss in some chickpeas. It's easy enough. Sometimes I'll make a vegetable curry and I'll just toss in some chickpeas or some kidney beans because it's so easy just at the end. And obviously chickpeas you can buy canned and kidney beans you can buy canned. It's just, they're so easy to have in your pantry and you just need to warm them because they're already cooked, obviously. And then I'd probably say maybe lentils I really enjoy as well. I like to make veggie burgers with lentils, and they're just, again, you can boil lentils on your own. But recently I've just discovered canned lentils and they're just delicious and so much easier to use than boiling them on your own.
So yeah, canned versus, because you can buy them hard too, right? They're like a hard.
Yes, you can buy them dried and which, is certainly doable. It just saves a step. You don't have to pick through them. Sometimes there's pebbles in them and things like that, and rinse them. And then you got to cook them and they can take a while to cook. So it's saving time in the kitchen. I like to save time in the kitchen whenever possible. So,
oh, absolutely.
and people who purchase Easy Plant-Based Cooking for Two, we'll see that these are easy, approachable recipes. And I think it's perfect for anyone who's curious about the plant-based diet and just incorporating more plants into their diet. These recipes are super doable.
I love that. And I love how it's cooking for two. Really, it can be cooking for one, right? You would just have leftovers.
Yes, absolutely. You can definitely be cooking for one. And also it can be cooking for 4. These recipes are easily doubled. So, I tried to make the recipes as easy as possible where it's, like half a cup of this, 2 cups of this. So if you got to double it, it's easy to double.
Right. I try to stay away from like the third. That kind of gets painful.
Yes. 3/8 of a carrot,
Yeah.
Right.
We want easy. We don't want to do a math problem. We want to.
Correct.
So what are some other top favorite foods that you like to stock your pantry with when you are thinking about doing a plant-based meal?
Yeah. So I'd probably say if you opened up my pantry right now, you'd see a lot of canned beans for sure. Mm-hmm. I do have a lot of canned tomatoes. I love those products. And then I try and buy nuts and seeds in bulk. So my fridge actually has a lot of like plastic containers of nuts and seeds. So again, like nuts and seeds are so easy to throw onto salads. I throw them onto my oatmeal in the morning. I try to stick with those. I also would say I stock up my freezer with frozen vegetables too. So, obviously I like to buy fresh, but sometimes, if there's a sale on frozen vegetables, I'm there. I'm all about just, cost cutting and limiting the amount of trips I have to take to the grocery store.
Right. And frozen, you can do a lot with frozen vegetables. Yeah. I like fresh too, but frozen is a nice option.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Certainly, frozen peas, frozen corn, frozen okra. I eat those a lot.
Right. So in your book, Easy Plant-Based Cooking for Two, would this be a good book for someone to get, you think, if they were just starting the journey of doing I can't talk, plant-based dieting. Eating. It's not really called dieting, it's eating.
Yeah, I know. We switch back and forth.
Yeah.
It's more of a lifestyle, but totally get where you're coming from. And yes, I do think this would be perfect for the beginner who's curious about learning more about how to incorporate plants to their diet. And I really tried to not, I'm not going to put down vegan cooking by any means. But, I think a lot of people are hesitant or they kind of shy away from when they see like, ooh, vegan recipes. Like there's going to be some strange ingredients and things like that.
True?
Yeah. And I get it. You might be like, flaxseed, what's that? And I tried, there's flaxseed in my book. There's chia seed, there's nutritional yeast, but I didn't overload it with those ingredients. I really tried to stick with basic pantry staples that someone who is not necessarily a plant-based eater would have in their pantry. And I think I was able to do that because like I said, came from a big meat eating household. I still considered myself, an occasional meat eater. So, this is how I just liked to cook and incorporate more vegetables into my diet. And so I hope it's very approachable for everyone.
That's awesome. Do you have any other tips that you haven't mentioned yet for someone who wants to try this type of eating?
Yeah, definitely. I always tell people first is figure out why you want to do it, and that's really what's going to drive you to stick with it. Determine your motivation is what I say in my book. And then from there, I always suggest meatless Mondays first. It's the easiest thing to do. And it's kind of fun because it's just one day a week and you get to look forward to it. You have the whole week to plan what you're going to eat on meatless Mondays. And it's very doable. So I would say that. Another thing that helped me, I remember I learned this in my plant-based class, was start viewing meat as a side dish as opposed to the main entree. So if you're filling up your plate with food, have just a small amount of meat on the side, like a quarter of the plate should just be animal product and the rest should all be plants. And that was really helpful for me too, because that way you're not totally eliminating meat from your plate. It's just much smaller portion. So I would say that. Meal prep as much as possible. So I found that it was easy if I made a big batch of rice or grains earlier in the week, and then I had it ready to go. That was ready to go in the fridge. And all I had to do on the other days was maybe cook a quick vegetable stir fry. And then I already had a grain to go along with it. I would say stick to familiar flavors, things that you like to eat. Don't go all, if you've never liked celery, don't start cooking celery dishes.
Right.
Let's make this enjoyable for you. And then, if your budget allows, I always felt that if you could, there's a lot of great like plant-based meal delivery services out there. If you can afford it and you just want to like order, maybe 3 meals a week that are plant-based, it's a convenient way to kind of start introducing more plants into your diet without having the stress of like, oh, what do I cook? It's already decided for you and it's, at your doorstep.
Instacart, groceries delivered in as little as 1 hour. Free delivery on your first order, $35. Save yourself that trip to the market. Instacart delivers groceries in as fast as 1 hour. They connect you with personal shoppers in your area to shop and deliver groceries from your favorite stores. Free delivery on your very first order over $35. Following the link in the show notes lets Instacart know we sent you and help support our show. Multiple stores available. Shop all of your favorites on a single order. The products you love from your local stores. Hand-selected by shoppers based on your preferences. Delivery to your door in as fast as 1 hour. Instacart highlights deals to help you save money. Don't we all want that? Find everything you usually buy and get smart suggestions for new items. Instacart picks the freshest produce and keeps your eggs safe too. Woohoo! Those are things I want. Try it out today. You will love it. Those are great tips. And I have a question for you that just popped in my head when you were talking about that. So, like every time I make rice and I put it in the fridge, I feel like it dries out. Do you have any
Mm.
tricks like to do that to make it not dry out? Like the days after when it's left over, I just feel like it gets so dry.
Yeah. So, well, what I do, I don't know what anyone else does, but I warm it. I put it in a microwave safe container and then I cover it with a damp paper towel and
Mm.
then I warm it that way. And so that way it's steaming and it's adding more moisture back into the rice.
Oh, I like that trick. I'm gonna have to try that.
Thank you. Yeah, it works for me.
Yeah, because like when we've done that or we have leftover stir fry or something, then it's kind of like, it's dried out. I'm kind of almost like I should just make another batch of rice, but I don't really want to waste the rice that I already have
Mhm.
cooked, so that's a
Yep,
great
yep.
tip.
Another thing you could do, which is what we do a lot too, is my husband loves fried rice. So if you've got leftover rice in the fridge and it has dried out, then actually that's exactly what you want for fried rice is a drier rice that's going to soak in all the flavors of a fried rice. So
Okay.
I'll use it for that too.
Do you cook it in an oil then?
I do. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. I never thought
Yeah.
of doing that. That's a great idea.
Yes, thank you. Oil, and then you flavor it with a little soy sauce, and sometimes I add some mirin, which is like a sweet cooking wine, and
Oh, okay.
that adds really nice flavor too.
Very nice. So I would love to know a little bit more about your training and experience.
Sure. So, as far as my professional training, let's see, I went to the Culinary Institute of America in upstate New York, and that's where I studied my chef training. And that was a 2-year program. And after that, I moved out to Los Angeles and I just worked my way through a few restaurants in the LA area and I was focused on pastry actually. That was my
Oh,
background. Yeah.
sure.
So I worked in a number of different pastry kitchens in LA and then I had the amazing opportunity to work with Chef Michael Mina at his restaurant. It was called Stonehill Tavern and it was down in Dana Point, California. So I moved south of LA down to Orange County and I was the executive pastry chef there for,
Oh,
I want to say,
awesome.
yeah, maybe 4 or 5 years I was there. And then I had always wanted to open up my own bakery and I had found the perfect location in the wonderful beach town called San Clemente.
Mm.
And so I left the restaurant world to do that. And I did that for 10 years. And it was an amazing experience to run one's own business and
Yeah.
lots of fun for sure. And then my 10-year lease was up in March 2022, which was, so fortunate for me. I mean, I was ready to go anyway. And as I said, like my joints were hurting, my knees were hurting, like, my
Right.
body was basically screaming at me. So it was perfect timing for me. Yeah, that's my background in restaurants. And as far as cookbooks, the way my first cookbook came to be was because I had opened my bakery and a lot of my customers just loved the recipes and they wanted the recipes and I was like, gosh, I should write a cookbook with all
Yeah.
of the bakery's recipes in it. And that was my first cookbook called Beach House Baking. And
Nice.
that's what got me on the path to writing more cookbooks. So
I think that's awesome. And it's a really fun title. You know what I mean? Like when I think about beach house, like that's awesome. And then baking, awesome. Like that's just a fun combo. You think
I
about,
know.
oh yeah, yes.
I know. There's not one bad word in that title.
I know, right?
Like
That's
beach,
really good.
yes. House, yes.
And then did you do the farm to table desserts cookbook after the beach house baking?
I did beach house baking and then I did beach house brunch shortly
Oh yeah, yeah, I
thereafter.
saw that. Hmm.
Yeah. And then I did farm to table desserts and then I went back to beach house dinners.
Nice.
And then I guess it's easy plant-based cooking for two is the next one.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a
Yeah.
great collection. I love the beach house idea because it's just fun. I mean, I
Thank
live in
you.
Minnesota and
I know.
to me, I'm like, ooh, beach house.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we thought, between my agent and my wonderful editor and at Skyhorse Publishing, we just kind of thought about, what would really make this appeal to people. And I've got this bake shop literally, half a mile from the ocean. And I'm fortunate enough to live in this beautiful, beach town city and let's turn this into a cookbook that could transport people to beaches, wherever.
Absolutely. Because, my family, a lot of times will go to the beach, we'll rent a beach house for, our vacation. So what a great fun way to think about that and like be like, oh, we
Yeah.
can, yeah, have that all year, have that taste all year round of just that
Exactly.
funness. That's fun. One of your reviewers said, we talked about this a little bit ago, but one of your reviewers said you break down the barrier between plant-based food and everyday food. I really love that. And do you think this person was referring to how doable your recipes are, or do you think they meant something else?
I do. Yeah. Oh gosh, Hannah Kaminsky. Okay. So she's an amazing vegan cookbook author. And yes, I was so thrilled when I read her comment because oh, she gets it. I think she gets it, and
Yeah.
yes, I do think that what she meant was that there is this kind of fear or like barrier that other people who are not familiar with vegan diets view vegan diets like they're not
Yes.
approachable and like, oh, I don't even want to go down that path kind of thing.
Right. Like
So
weird stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So I think, when she's read my cookbook, she saw how doable and approachable they are. I know I feel like I keep saying approachable, but I feel like that's the best word to describe these recipes in the cookbook. So I believe that's what Hannah meant when she said that.
Yeah, that's how I took it too. I'm like, it's just doable. It's something you can do every day. It's not this big production. Like, and I like to cook gourmet too, but sometimes it gets too much time, too much involved, and you're hungry, you want to eat.
Yeah,
So we're busy. We're busy. We want something easy and good.
exactly.
Sometimes there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time to do something really long and involved, but that's not going to be your everyday.
Right, exactly.
So you did talk about your husband and you both eating meat. Do you find it difficult flip-flopping between meat meals and non-meat?
I don't think it's that challenging because even when I have, maybe I'll eat a salad and I'll toss chickpeas in mine to boost up the protein. I may add, a piece of salmon to his. So
Sure, sure.
it's all about utilizing what you're already making so you're not, making two different meals.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm sure you know this well.
Oh, yes.
Right. So if I'm, cooking, if I've got rice, his dish is going to have rice, obviously. If I've got a roasted, with roasted broccoli, his dish is also going to have roasted broccoli. And then, maybe I've got, seared tofu on mine, but he's got, a seared chicken breast on his, that kind of thing. So
Right.
it's just utilizing, many of the same components, but having, two different meals, but they're similar in nature.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot too. And it reduces you being a short order cook where you have to completely make a
Correct.
different meal for the person not eating meat,
Right. Right.
which is what I try to avoid because I'm
Yeah.
busy and I don't want to do that. So I have to ask you, how many times do you make a recipe before you decide it's cookbook ready?
Oh, I love that question. Gosh, it depends, Julie. I mean, I hesitate to say this, but the apple oatcakes recipe in the cookbook, I probably made that 20 times. Like it
Oh,
was like
sure,
it was
sure.
the bane of my existence, but I was determined to get it right. I wanted it right texture, the right flavor. And yeah, some come easy. Some, if I'm fortunate enough, it takes one time, and some
Yeah.
takes so much more. So it just depends. I would say maybe on average 3 to 5 times just to be sure. Even if I like it the first time, I'm going to make it again, obviously, because I got to make sure I wrote the recipe down correctly and things like that.
Yep.
So yeah, so just it fluctuates.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, yeah, you're getting so involved in making something, you may not take the notes properly. So you need to
Hmm.
make it again to make sure that what you have written down is realistic.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. And, I usually have my laptop in the kitchen as I'm cooking, but, as sometimes when you're so involved with cooking, you actually forget to step back and then type it in
Yes.
what you're doing, and then you got to go back. So, yeah, there's huge many chances for error when it comes to developing a recipe.
Oh, absolutely. And where do you find your inspiration when you're going to make a new recipe? Are you like, do you see something else someone else made, or you just think, I just want to make something with XYZ? Do you have a set inspiration, or is it multiple different ways that it comes to you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. With this cookbook, what I did was I actually took a piece of paper and I wrote down my favorite vegetables or even
Ah,
vegetables that I have wanted to cook with, but I hadn't.
mm.
For instance, like jackfruit, I had never worked with before writing
Oh,
this
yeah.
cookbook. And so that was on my list because I wanted to learn what to do with it. Like I had no
Right. I've
idea.
never done it. I know.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at your book because I've seen it, but I've never actually tried it. Yeah.
Correct. Yep, that's where I was. And so yeah,
Mhm.
there is a jackfruit burrito recipe in my cookbook. That's how I ended up using it. Yeah, I
Nice.
just wrote down, what do I like? I like cauliflower, broccoli, bok choy, like whatever I liked. And then from there, I came up with different ideas and wrote down, like, okay, roasted cauliflower steak, something like that. And then
Mm,
everything's written for me. That's how I do it. I just write them all out on a piece of paper. And then I start figuring out how to develop each one.
right. Very fun. I think it's fun. I like doing recipe development too. I think it's just fun. I like to try new things too. So it's a
Hmm.
fun thing to do.
Yes, it is.
And your pictures are gorgeous. So now do you take your own photos for your books or do you have someone come in and take your pictures?
Thank you. For this one, I took all the food photos.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I was really happy with how these photos came out. And yeah, I would say to do not consider myself a photographer by any means, but along the way, after having taken photographs for, my two previous cookbooks, I've
Mm,
picked up a lot of, tips and I just found that lighting is like probably
yes.
one of the most important factors. And
Yep.
if you just find spots in your house or apartment, wherever you live, where the lighting hits just right, like this time of day, then stick with it. I've got one spot in the living room, one spot in the kitchen, one spot in the dining room where, that those are the three places in the house that I always try taking photos at because it just seems to work out really nicely with how the light comes in.
Yeah, and time of day really does make a difference too, which
Oh,
is
it
so
does.
interesting. Yeah.
It totally does. I remember, so I started writing this last summer, I want to say early summer, and then it went into kind of fall. And all of a sudden, the places I was taking the photographs at didn't look very good because
Right.
we were like it was getting darker earlier and it was like messing everything up. So yeah,
Oh
you got
yeah.
to figure out the right places at the right time of day.
Yes. And you have to like do it on a day where it's going to work too. Like, timing, weather, the
Oh yeah.
clouds impact, it's yeah.
Yeah, it's very involved.
It is. So, what are some of your favorite recipes from the book? Do you have favorites?
I do. Well, I definitely have one that quickly comes to mind. Like as soon as you said favorite, I love the roasted cauliflower steak recipe.
Nice.
It's just, oh, it's so good. I love it because not only are the flavors work really well, but I love it because it uses one head of cauliflower.
Yeah.
I always hate having, half a head of cauliflower left in the fridge.
Mhm.
And so what I do in this recipe is half of the cauliflower I steam and I make a cauliflower
Ah,
puree. And then
okay.
the other half I cut into really thin steaks and I roast those. And
Mm.
then I lay the cauliflower steaks on top of the cauliflower puree.
Oh.
And I make a really yummy, flavorful kale pesto. And that's
Ah.
dotted on top of the roasted cauliflower. And then it's served with some brown lentils on the side. And it's got the creaminess from the cauliflower puree. It's got the meatiness from the lentils. It's got the delicious roasted, like roasted in turmeric and garlic, and the flavors just work really well. And the kale pesto just kind of brings it all to life. So it's definitely my favorite.
Oh, that sounds delicious. I'm going to
Yeah.
definitely have to try that.
Yes, please. It's really good. I really like that one.
And so
And
roasted in the oven, right? Is that kind of how you do
it
it?
is, yep,
Yeah.
roasted at
Okay.
high heat in the oven. So yeah, I'd say that definitely the chickpea and sweet potato mulligatawny I
Mm,
absolutely love. That's an Indian soup, and It's full of vegetables and lots of like flavorings like paprika and curry powder and chili powder. There's nutmeg. I add some raisins in it that are like
Mm.
a really nice sweet touch. There's red lentils in it and there's lots of vegetables. So that's definitely my favorite soup in the recipe and one of my favorite recipes in the book and one of my favorite soups too.
Awesome. Well, they all look delicious. When I've looked through your book, I'm like, ooh, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. And 80 is a
Thank
good
you.
amount. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of recipes.
It is, yep. And I tried to, offer a good blend of, there's sandwiches, there's breakfast items, there's baked goods, there's desserts, there's side dishes, entrees, and snacks. So, I hope people, enjoy having the wide range of different types of dishes.
Oh, absolutely. I would think so. I want to try your chickpea meatloaf too. Cause like as a vegetarian, the rest of my family, they all eat meat, my husband and my kids. And so they'll have meatloaf. And then when they have meatloaf, I have to have something else, you know?
Yes, yes.
So I'm excited to try like some kind of meatloaf that I could have. So I'm excited to try that one out. Chickpea meatloaf. It sounds very interesting.
Yes, I'm happy for you. Now you get your own meatloaf too.
Yes.
Yeah, so this meatloaf is awesome because obviously it's plant-based, no animal products, but it has really great texture from the
Mm.
chickpeas and there's pecans in it. And then it's
Oh,
got mushrooms and tomato paste and vegan Worcestershire sauce. And
oh,
that
yes.
those three things really add really nice umami flavor, which is that savory flavor that we all crave. And it's absolutely delicious. You basically cook down the mushrooms. Mushrooms have a lot of liquid. We all know that. So you want to
Mm-mm.
cook it out for quite a bit, and you want to get all the liquid to evaporate, and then you flavor it with tomato sauce, tomato paste, sorry, and a
Yep.
little vegetable broth, and then you're going to add some breadcrumbs and some ground pecans, and that's going to meatify it.
Mm,
and
sure.
and then the binder that I use is aquafaba, which is that wonderful liquid that's found with chickpeas in a chickpea can. And that
Oh,
that works kind of like an egg white. So it's going to
oh,
bind all the
sure.
ingredients together. And then you just pack it into a loaf pan and bake it. And you spread some ketchup on top, and it's delicious. Just have it with some mashed potatoes, and you're all set.
That sounds perfect. So yeah, and I remember the day I found out that Worcestershire sauce that there was vegan Worcestershire sauce. I was like, woohoo!
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
'cause I didn't know that for a long time. And one day I'm like, hey, this one doesn't have it. I was
Right?
excited to find it. Yes, it exists.
Yes. And it's
Yep,
good.
yep. To me, it doesn't taste any different because I did try the other one because I couldn't find any other until the one day
Right.
I found it. And
Right.
I was like, woo, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing what you can find these days that are vegan, between the vegan cheeses and, other products. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it might be more so out where you are in Minnesota even. There's more and more products all the time in the store that are vegan or alternative. And I think it's just a
Mhm.
great thing, and there's just more and more of it is coming. And maybe you've had it for a very long time on the West Coast already, but it's more here now than it used to be.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. And I do believe that. Yeah. And I do believe that California's probably started a little before maybe the rest of the country,
Probably.
but yeah, it is nice to see that it is spreading and becoming more prominent.
So, do you have other recipes that you like to try and emulate a classic meal like meatloaf where you try to make it vegan, but it was something I'm trying to think of something that would be an example like meatloaf. Do you have any that come to mind that you've done a similar thing with and made it vegan?
So as far as what's in this cookbook, the only thing that comes to mind would probably be the jackfruit burritos
Oh,
because
sure.
jackfruit, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it has a very meaty texture and it also shreds really easily. So
Mm,
it's very people liken it to pulled pork or pulled chicken or shredded chicken. So
sure.
so I thought it would be a good use for trying to make, a pulled pork burrito, but vegan style, obviously with jackfruit. So that I've done. I would say in general, I don't know if I am really drawn to developing recipes like that. I saw
Mm,
online that there was, a vegan lobster roll and it's made with
mm.
parts of palm, I believe, instead of lobster.
Okay,
And
sure.
that's wonderful. It's so creative. But for me, that's not something that I get that excited about. I kind of feel like
Right.
well, it doesn't have to look like a lobster roll, for me to eat it. Maybe I just want
Right.
to eat parts of palm hoagie or something.
Right. And just call it that. Yes.
Right. So,
I
so
get that.
that's kind of where I am right now, at least.
And I like the idea too of the jackfruit in the burrito because if you are eating a meal with other people who want meat, it's just, you just have a bowl of jackfruit and you have a bowl of meat and everybody builds their own. It's like
Yep.
perfect.
Oh yeah, that's a fantastic idea for feeding meat eaters and plant eaters in one household is yeah, build your own, have like fajitas one night, but everyone builds their own. So, if you don't want meat, you don't have to take meat.
Exactly. It works out very well. So, do you like an air fryer? Do you like to use an air fryer?
I have never used an air fryer,
Oh, you
actually.
haven't? Oh,
Have you?
I have, yes.
I want to. It's one of those items where I'm like so fascinated by it, but
Yes.
I've never actually, taken the step and bought one. But I work for All Recipes and I have recipes on the site and many of
Mm.
them air fryers. And I'm always like fascinated, like, ooh, an air fryer recipe. So,
It's
yeah,
time.
you tell me about it. Tell me how wonderful it is.
I do like it. And we've done many things in it. We've done, of course, fries. And one of the things I like about doing fries in an air fryer is you don't use very much oil. You can use a very small amount of oil. And same with anything you cook in there. We've done like fish, like my husband recently we had gone a year, I guess it was in March. We went to Florida and my husband and boys went fishing and then we froze the fish and brought it back to Minnesota.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
yeah, he likes to do that. And so then when we were home, he did it in the air fryer and just use so much less oil. And so he did all the fish,
Mhm.
which normally he would, bread it and fry it in oil. He did it in the air fryer and it worked out really well. It was interesting. I've also done quiches in the air fryer. I've done eggs, squash.
That's
There's
awesome.
there's so many things you can do in it. It's just interesting because you're not heating up a big, huge oven. You're heating up the small units, and it heats up
Right.
so quickly. It's like, boom, it's, ready because it's so small. It's a small area to heat, right? So it's just like, boom, it's ready. So that's the nice part
That's
about it.
awesome. Okay, yeah, yeah. Yet another reason why I need to buy an air fryer.
And they might be making them smaller. I feel like mine's a little bit bulky. It's kind of like an egg, but I feel like they're
Okay.
getting smaller and smaller, but everything always seems to do that when technology gets
I
better.
guess.
Things get
Yeah.
smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Our
True.
smartphones,
Yeah.
it's smaller. So yeah, so I definitely do enjoy it. It's a good one. And the hard part for me is feeding all five of us. It's a small space, to cook it in. So I may have to do multiple batches of something just to get
Right.
enough to feed all five of us. But if I'm doing something that's a side dish, then it works better because you don't need as much, you know?
Right. 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 Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So tell me more about your other cookbooks. Did you enjoy doing them? What was fun or anything that stuck out in your mind about what you like or a recipe you like or what was fun about it or any kind of story?
Oh gosh, I love all my other cookbooks. They were all written, different times in my life, and I love going back to them. Especially the older ones, and making different recipes from them, and being like, I'm always like surprised, like, oh, that's really good. Like,
I love
'cause,
that.
you don't make it for a long time and you forget. And I was like, oh, I like this one.
Yes.
So yeah, and I obviously am a fan of other people's cookbooks too. So I have a whole stash and I've always loved cookbooks. I was raised by parents who loved to cook. So
Mm.
my fondest memories are having them cook in the kitchen. And when I was little, I would just sit on the floor in the kitchen and open the bottom cabinet where my mom kept all her recipe cards because that's what they did back then was the recipe
Yeah,
cards.
yeah.
And I would just flip through them and read them and just I was fascinated with them. And I loved all her old, Betty Crocker cookbooks, like all of them.
Oh,
And
yes.
just flipping through all of them and looking at the photos and just fascinated with the different types of, cooking methods and ingredients. So I feel so fortunate that I'm able to write cookbooks and it's wonderful to spend 6 months to a year writing these recipes and then to have it, be put into a cookbook and delivered to your house and then to be able to open it and see it put together. It's such a fun, awesome feeling. And that's why I continue to do it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's all those memories, all of that, just not even just remembering making them, remembering the flavors, and maybe you made it for certain people. Yeah, it's just full of memories as well. It's not just recipes for you. And that's awesome. And then people who use the book can also, they're going to get memories too.
Sure. Yeah. And that's what, and I do mention that in easy plant-based cooking for two is that, I am terrible at following a recipe's directions. Like I love to, just improvise. And if I don't have one ingredient, I'm going to substitute it for another. And I'm all about that. And then I encourage people to do that with my recipes because everyone's got different tastes, and so maybe you don't like kale, but you like Swiss chard. So go ahead and use Swiss chard. It's okay. Just use my recipes as inspirations to create your own.
Yeah. And I like how you said in the book too, at one point, I think you said something about like, if you want meat, you can take these recipes and just add meat. It's you know what I mean? It's not hard. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you don't even have to think of it as, oh, that's only vegan. Oh no, that's over there. You can make it your own and just plop some chicken on there, Yep.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where else are you that people can find you? You have on Instagram, right? What's your Instagram?
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is my name @Shishak and my website is shishak.com. So I'm very easy to find.
That's awesome.
And if you just search my name on Amazon, all my books will pop up. So if you're looking for a wonderful plant-based introductory cookbook, please check out my book.
That's awesome. Was there anything else you'd like to talk about that we haven't touched on or share?
Gosh, just thank you for having me. This has been so wonderful talking to you. And it's such a wonderful opportunity to promote not only my book, but just plant-based eating in general. I have found that the people I have spoken to about my book and some of the blurb reviewers of my book, like they're just so excited that I've written a plant-based cookbook and they just want everyone to start eating more plants. And I honestly have never experienced this before with my other cookbooks where people have been so excited for this book and excited for me. And they think it's so great that it's cooking for two. And so there's limited waste. And I just think there's a lot of positives about this book that I think a lot of people would benefit from.
Yeah. And I think too, for me, just even, our family of 5, but I think about the fact that with your cookbook, if my rest of my family's eating something else, I could make something for myself from your cookbook and I wouldn't have all this extra. You know what I mean? Because you have leftovers are great, but you don't want a ton of leftovers. Right. And so for me, this is going to work too for just like filling in when I'm going to have something different that everybody else has in my family. So there's so many different ways I feel like people could use your cookbook. That's one way I definitely would see for myself that I would use it too.
Yeah, definitely. And that makes me so happy to hear that.
Well, it is a great idea. And I think it's a great thing for people to consider, just even the health benefits, like you talked about in the beginning of our talk. It's just a healthier way to live to have more of them.
Right, exactly.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on my show. This is great. I'm really excited to put this out to the world and share you and your books with my audience. I'm excited to share. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Julie. I really appreciate it.
You have an amazing day.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I want to thank you for listening to this podcast episode, and I'm excited to share this with you. I also want to announce that my cookbook is now live. My cookbook is American Midwest Cooking Quiches, and it is now live as of today, actually. I'm really excited that it's live. And so I will put that link down in the podcast notes. I'm still looking for reviewers. If anybody would like to review my cookbook, it would be very helpful to me, and it helped me launch this book. And I will put all of Lay's links down there as well, so you can easily find her cookbooks, all of her amazing, beautiful cookbooks. The one that I have is a hardcover. It's Easy Plant-Based Cooking for Two. the delicious vegan recipes to enjoy together. It's a beautiful book. Get it. And so check down in the podcast notes where her links are, and you can find her, follow her on Instagram. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoy all the great ideas, all the yummy food, and enjoy your day. Have a great one. Bye-bye now.